Welcome to the Brands and with Aggregators podcast today. We have a very special guest. We have Kyle Walker, the co-founder of Foundry Brands, and we have Mac, the CEO of Guru, the host, and me, the co-host, Omar Angri from marginbusiness.com. So yeah, we want to talk about more about brands with aggregators or aggregators with brands. And find out more exactly how we can help sellers or anyone who's interested to understand more the business, or the ones who want to sell their brands, or even CEOs who don't have time to go really into this, to listen to our podcast and to understand how this works, and maybe get a little bit deeper into the whole matter. Now we have so much money flowing in. I think the last week was the money. I call it the money flowing in week, because when I open up the news, I cannot even mention all of the brands which have getting founded last week. What is going on? Somebody switched on the money hose, or how does it happen? Do they print money? I don't really understand. So how many brands can they acquire? Please. Explain to us.
Being in Silicon Valley for a couple of years, I think Kyle is in a great position, because it's really great to be in a business where a lot of people are institutions are trying to fund. So it's a great position. So Kyle, please tell about yourself, about Foundry, and let's start with that.
Yeah, well, thank you both for having me. Pleasure to be here. I think, look, I have more of a generalist background. I spent a little time teaching at the University of South Florida. I've spent a little time with Nike, GNC, Dick's Sporting Goods. But really, I think the reason that we're here with Foundry is, I spent the last 7+ years, at Amazon and working primarily in the marketplace space. And if you think back to where marketplace was in 2013 when I started, you can probably go back and pull up all of Jeff's annual reports and see the size and the percentage of the consumer business that marketplace was in 2013, and compare that to 2020 when I left. It was a massive shift. And that massive shift not only created incremental sales for many of these founder entrepreneur businesses that were on marketplace, but marketplace also started stealing market share from Amazon's own retail business. It became 30% of the business in probably 2013, or maybe even a little less, and became well north of 50% of the business in 2020. And so the amount of tools, processes, things that you have to build to withstand that type of scale, made us really close with, a lot of sellers over that time. My team probably worked with 12,000 brands over that time. And
wow.
And I think, even in 2013 to say 2014 or 15, it moved from being primarily a reseller business based on kind of arbitrage, where people were reselling other people's consumer branded products, end of life closeouts, and doing it millions of times for very little margin, and realizing that they had the same capabilities and tools to go out and develop their own brands. And so it really started as kind of private labeling many of the popular products that they sold previously. And then they started having success, and they started having that. What I think is so fascinating about Amazon is customers will give you immediate feedback. They'll give it to you in ratings, reviews. They'll ask you questions, and you can view that as an opportunity to kind of help plan what your future product roadmap looks like. And so one of the famous stories that I think has been written about, I forget if it was a Fast Company article, way back in 2014, 2015, was somebody realized that they were selling all of these Bluetooth speakers, and that customers kept telling them, we have these Bluetooth speakers around the pool or next to a barbecue or outside, and the chances that they're going to get wet is very real. And so when they get ruined, it makes us not want to do this. And so what do? They take that feedback and they go, find a waterproof sealant to put on a Bluetooth speaker, and it becomes a bestseller, pretty much overnight. And so I think your ability to engage directly with your customers and take that feedback for those that have withstood the test of time, it's really been better serving those customers by, responding directly to their feedback. And that's kind of where Foundry and, other aggregators have been able to find their opportunity as well, because the reality is a founder-led business or an entrepreneur that's created a business, in many cases, that's their livelihood, and they only have so many hours in a day, and they know their customer better inside and out than everybody. And they've built this amazing business, but at the same time, they're going to run into resource constraints. They're going to have to hire a big team. They're going to have to make an investment in that team probably before it pays off. You have to go secure additional inventory to grow. Right now, we're going through a period of time where the supply chain has gotten super complicated and expensive out of nowhere. And the reality is a founder entrepreneur, a small business, they're only able to withstand so much, and yet they've created this amazing connection with customers. And so I think from a Foundry perspective, that's really where our value proposition starts. Is we have an amazing executive team. We have an amazing team overall that has a lot of experience, that just like me has seen tens of thousands of brands grow and mature over time. And that helps you form a blueprint of what those things look like, and what you need to do to continue to professionalize and scale and invest in them. And you think about, it's not a new model. Procter & Gamble has done this for years and years and years, right? They've acquired 65 brands and they continue to grow those brands over time. And, they're worth a lot of money, because they've been able to take smaller brands that appeal to customers and bring them to a wider audience. Coca-Cola has done this. Coca-Cola just acquired, what was it, Body Armor last week. That makes sense for them. It's a customer base that is net new to the company. They have a lot of distribution and manufacturing capabilities, and they're able to add scale and help that business grow. So it's not a new business model. I think what is new is all the interest in it. And I think the interest, largely is kudos to all those small and medium-sized businesses that have thrived over the last 7-8 years on Marketplace, maybe even longer than that. You occasionally run into people that have been selling on Marketplace since 2010, 2011, 2012. And obviously it's a completely different marketplace now than what it was. But I also think, every one of those tools that's available to somebody now here in 2021 was very carefully thought through by, somebody on my team or somebody inside Amazon, and believe it or not, was probably influenced by a piece of seller feedback that we got at either live or through a forum, and said it's a good business idea. And the reality is Marketplace allows you to have access to 300 million worldwide customers. It allows you a bunch of tools. FBA has completely changed the distribution game, where you can get a product to somebody in two days. And so it's never been, in a lot of ways, it's never been easier to create a business. And, think about how many great ideas previously, died around the kitchen table because somebody goes, well, I don't know where I would source it. Well, never been easier to connect to a manufacturer and ability to source. Or you can go to a sourcing show. You can travel the world and do that. And then where am I going to sell it? If you think about the 4 P's of marketing, part of it is handling how we're going to distribute the product. Well, I can buy something overseas, have it shipped in, and it can go directly to a warehouse. I never even touched it. And all I have to do is market it to these, 300 million worldwide customers. So I think that has opened up the opportunity for companies like us at Foundry to come in and say, look, there's a business here that has an amazing foundation, And I think with the team that we have and the executive team we have and my co-founders and our leadership, including our amazing CEO, Helen, we come in and we look and we say, there's a foundation here that can be built on. But building on that is going to take more people. It's going to take, more dollars. And those are things that we can add to the business. And I think, earlier you mentioned what makes us unique in this space, so that, not everything looks the same. Is, look, there's going to be a lot of winners in this space. I think you don't have to sell to one aggregator because they're out ahead today. There's going to be a lot of winners in this space. And I think, the reality is you should find the right fit, because, 99 out of 100 people that have exited a business before will tell you they don't remember the contractual terms. They don't remember the financial terms in half the cases. What they remember is what was done with the brand post-acquisition. And I think that's one of the first ways that we at Foundry believed we could differentiate is our team is really built around being operators. If you think about our founding team, there's 24 plus years of Amazon leadership experience that built a lot of the tools that sellers are using today. So we know how to optimize those things. And then, you have another one of our co-founders who comes from the private equity world, but invested purely in consumer brands for his entire career, and has seen a lot of those grow and scale. And so I think bringing an operator's perspective is the first way that we're different. I think the second way that we're different, which is really important, is, we raised $100 million of equity, and where that comes into play is, there's a lot of companies out there that, have a lot of debt facilities behind, the money that they've raised. And that's not a bad thing. It's just different. But what that creates is usually comes with two strings attached. The first string is that they have covenants on that debt that say you have to buy things that look a certain way. We're a little more free to find great brands, for example, that exist outside of Amazon's ecosystem, and maybe we're born digitally, and we can take to Amazon, or we can take to Walmart, or we can take more of an omni-channel approach to. And the second thing is, if you think about it, one of the things that's differentiated Amazon for all these years is, and it's mentioned in every shareholder letter, is just the long-term vision of the investments. And I think when you have debt and you have to service that debt, and that debt has interest, you make a lot of decisions that are short-term focused. You have to pay off that debt every month. It doesn't get to, whereas, we have equity where, we don't have to service that equity every month. And I think the third thing that, is sadly becoming true is, a lot of people jumped into this space without thinking it through, coming off of a crazy 2020 year. And if you can't positively comp, say, what was the biggest year in e-commerce history last year, and you have debt that you have to service, you can go underwater pretty quick. It's, the example I always share is, it's like taking equity out of your house to go buy another house. It all works well as long as, the capital that you're deploying is growing at a percentage faster than what you're borrowing it at. But the reality is it also flips the other way equally fast, where the minute that it's not growing faster, you're instantly bankrupt. Like, there is no coming back from it. There is no 6 months, the business will turn around. It's that you have more money deployed than you can afford to pay for. And so, we've seen quite a few distressed asset sales over the past, 3 or 4 months. And it's incredibly sad, because in a lot of cases, there's future income or future value tied to these things through earnouts or stabilization payments or royalties or whatever that are never going to get paid out. And that was part of the consideration set when they sold. And so having equity means we'll be around to pay you, every penny of what that business was worth. And then I think the third way that we're different is, look, we know that there's, if we go back to the assumption that there's all this value that can be created from this foundation of this brand, and the constraint has been a team a bigger team to do it and the money to be able to do it, and we unlock both of those things, there's no reason why we can't win with the founder. Like, if the founder wants to exit, that's great. But 9 times out of 10, when I talk to founders or entrepreneurs that are looking to sell their business, you know, they're optimistic about the next 12 or 24 months of their business, or they've got really big plans and they want to be involved in some way, shape, or form in their business going forward. And we encourage that. We look forward to, takes a little bit more time to figure out how to define that in a purchase agreement, but at the end of the day, it's all valuable. We try and find scenarios where we can win together. And the reality is, you know, if they want to be around and they want to advise and they know their customer, we're not naive to think that we're going to know everything about their business that they've learned over 6 years and 30 days of closing their business, right? So to the extent that they stay around, at least have a voice at the table, it ensures that they know what's happening with their brand, that it's operated in a way that's consistent with their values, and you know, that we're finding ways to share in the upside together. So those are really the 3 areas that I think we're different. And you know, so far it's bared itself out this year with the deals that we've pursued.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that you mentioned, you know, it really take, you know, my attention is like, it's not only the Amazon brands that you are maybe looking at, but also other brands, and they are not on Amazon, but they are great brands, and there is a great potential on Amazon. And it's the first time I'm hearing this one, because we personally look at on Eva a lot to like CPG brands. When we talk to them, like, they do not even exist on Amazon. Great product. And when I talk to the founders, they just tell me like, look, I'm like already selling great to the retailers, or I have my own website. I mean, Amazon is a monster. We don't know what to do there. So they do not, you know, go into that, but they have a great R&D, great product, great customer feedback, but nothing on Amazon. I think that might be the next big opportunity. As I'm personally exploring, for example, the CPG space, I see a lot of companies like that, and they are doing really great. I was just talking to a company from Seattle. I mean, great product. I just ordered it. It's like a margarita mixer, but it's so great. And they do not exist on Amazon. And I was like, why? Same thing, you know, we didn't have the time. So I like that very much. And I know that, you know, you are like your co-founder as well, you know, they're like already Kellyanne, right? Like Kellyanne was running a great business. She sold it. So you have the experience. So that's great. And what's your view about, like, I mean, right now, there are 2 parts I see very challenging. One is the supply chain. If you look at the cost, it's almost 10 times now compared to 5 years ago.
Simply crazy.
And the other side of the story is the advertising, the PPC and all that stuff. Again, it's like 5 times more expensive. Like, it's hard now. I mean, it's really hard, like with both equations. I sometimes think I'm not sure how to make money on Amazon anymore. You know, it's not easy. It's not like I bought something for $1 from China and sell it for $10 in US. I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. So how do you kind of address these 2 issues internally, like, you know, as an aggregator, the supply chain and the advertising? Is it more in-house now? You are kind of taking care of this and sharing the expertise, or you outsource it to top people doing it? Like, how does it work for you?
Yeah, I think you know, it might be a different answer across different areas of the business, but I think, you know, sticking with supply chain first, you know, we have a team that's dedicated to supply chain, and while we're gonna, you know, encounter the exact same, you know, it's not like we have a ship coming through into the port any faster than anybody else. But I think, you know, as you start achieving some level of volume, look, like I just read an article this morning that Amazon is struggling with getting their supply chain in, you know, as well. And, you know, so I think it's something that every industry is going to face. What I would say is that, you know, that's where that's where our ability to have a team that's able to kind of proactively go out and know that this is coming a little more in advance, as opposed to, look, if I'm a founder, I'm probably pulled in 20 different directions every day, and I may not be able to go deep on any one specific area all the time, right? I'm more reactive. I think having a team that's focused on it every day at least gives us the ability to be a little more proactive and plan it out a little better, and see those warning signs and signals coming. But I think at the end of the day, part of it is just being able to absorb those temporary changes too, right? Like, I think we all have faith that, look, we're going to find more truck drivers, we're going to be able to get more ships through port. We've navigated a lot of difficult things before. Gas prices go up and down, and it's all going to get to an equilibrium state again, and be sane again. But that said, having the ability to withstand that is different when you have, a lot of brands, and you have a lot more equity to play with, and you have a lot more team members that are able to kind of manage around those things than it is for your average everyday business. And so I think, to your point, there are definitely more complexities to manage now, whenever any environmental factor changes. And there's power in numbers, right? And those numbers are not only human resources to be able to deal with it, but the capital to be able to withstand those things. And it may be challenging for entrepreneurs, and we certainly hear about it every time that we're on a call. Whether it's lost sales that we're trying to kind of figure out the value for, and if they would have occurred. And I would say, just generally, it's been a challenging 18 months for everybody, in the sense that, or 19, 20 months, whatever it's been now. Nobody's really made it through unscathed, because I think for a short time period, there were a lot of people that were like, hey, COVID's been great to me. Like, my products sold out, and velocity picked up, and all that stuff. And that was all fine and good until 4 months later, when they couldn't get their next batch of product on time. Or their next batch of product cost twice what they were expecting it to. And now prices have to change. And it's been a very complex year. And I think having a team dedicated to it helps you be a little more proactive versus reactive, but we all see the same things. Advertising is a unique one, in the sense that, I think, look, there's a lot more tools today to really, truly, deeply analyze your business than there was even, 3 or 4 years ago. I can remember, for example, not having a brand analytics portal inside of Amazon, right? Like, I can remember going to a CodeFest project where we developed some tools for brand owners that, still haven't rolled out yet. So, but I think, the visibility to kind of that return on ad spend and total cost of sales and all of that stuff, there's more visibility to it. I think what's intriguing for entrepreneurs now is thinking through, what's the long-term value of acquiring that customer? Because I think in many ways, you're right, that the cost of acquiring them one time may be more competitive, may have gone up. But I think as you think through, how's that driving repeat purchases within your brand? How is that creating recurring revenue? What is the long-term value of that customer? As you start thinking through some of those metrics, there's enough data there to put together a really educated picture of how that fits. And that's been a big thing, for us at Foundry too, as, thinking through what defines a great foundation of a brand. And I think we've developed a scorecard with 32 different data points based off our experience, and a decision tree to go through. And at the end of the day, look, it's more complex, but it's also incredibly simple, because all you're really asking at the end of the day is, do they create a connection with their customer that has given them a brand customer for life. And that might be a more complicated calculation now, but something that we do every day. and gives us, more of a data point to say this is a brand. It's not just a product company.
Okay.
Right.
I think it's a very good explanation, and it brings me as well directly to the what you mentioned, just the 2020 with COVID, that everyone was like, "Yay, we sell, we it's not too bad as we thought, everything is fine." But now, 18 months, or as you mentioned, 20 months down the line, we're looking at different problems. And I think now with the aggregators which came in and brought all that stuff up, I think you agree with me. They actually forget about what you mentioned, and even me, I forgot about it. Like from the perspective of the companies grow so fast, and they were like, "Yay, we make lots, and everything is good," and suddenly they run into a wall not because their business is bad or they don't grow. It's because there are certain things which they cannot access anymore. Like, for example, shipping. Their stuff ain't coming in. Then obviously their employees are affected. Everything is affected. The whole company is affected, and then they run into these problems and they need to sell. So actually, really, I mean, I know it's happening, but I really didn't think about it. And it's really good that you mentioned it, because I think we forget about this percentage of businesses which actually break because of COVID, because everyone speaks always of the good side of COVID, because everyone made a lot and it was all good. And really good that you brought this up. I think you agree with me. It's another topic which is unfortunate for these companies, that they then need to sell their blood and sweat, their super good business for maybe less than they wanted, or even go bankrupt.
Yeah, I look, it's you can never anticipate things that are happening environmentally. I mean, I still remember, I don't know if it was 2016 or 15, but there was a time where capacity was running out of our fulfillment centers, and we had to cut off new shipments, in the middle of Q4 to new sellers, and that was the first time that we had ever done that at Amazon. And that was a hard thing to deal with, because there were a lot of businesses that had built their plans around getting their products out in the middle of Q4 and ran into something. But I think what you bring up is a super interesting point, and it's probably timely now because of COVID, but in reality happens all the time for a variety of reasons, which is, look, if you've built a business that either needs additional capital and resources to be able to scale or diversify or invest in things that allow you to control your own kind of supply chain or control your own destiny. I mean, look at Amazon. Like, they've invested in airplanes, they've invested in ships, they've invested in their own infrastructure to be able to more directly control, not just getting the product into their fulfillment network, but also getting that fulfillment network to be able to deliver the last mile to customers, right? And any business excuse me, any business goes through evolutions and tries to optimize and tries to vertically integrate. But the challenge and the trade-off is, for an individual entrepreneur who's built their business in a certain way, those types of disruptions become really, really problematic, right? And they require capital, and they require time to go evolve them. And in many cases, they know exactly what the path is to do it. It just becomes that much riskier to do it one time, as opposed to having a portfolio of 20 or 30 brands that it makes sense to do it on a wider scale. It's the same philosophy of a mutual fund is generally going to be a safer investment than an individual stock, right? Just because you're sharing some of that risk across a wider portfolio. And I think that's where companies like Foundry, not only are we able to kind of share that risk across our portfolio, we have a team that's actively managing that risk. And it's not, again, it's not like it's like me wanting to be a better golfer. Like, I can go to the range and I can work on things, but if I know what I'm supposed to be working on and I put in the time, a lot of times people know exactly what they want to do. They're just constrained by something to be able to do it. Like I would love to be, at the range for 4 hours a day working on my golf game. But the reality is I'm constrained. I've got 2 kids, I've got a business, I've got a million other things to go and do. And those things take priority. And so, it's very much the same for a founder-led business. They may know the path, they're just constrained by something to get there. And that's where I think, again, that's why one of our key differentiators is finding ways to work with them. If you already know what the path is and you're simply constrained by something, but it's going to unlock all this value, then let's find a way to win together. Like the win doesn't have to be one-sided. The win doesn't have to be, oh, my business is complicated, so I got to get out. I mean, we have those conversations too, but more often than not, it's how do we win together? How do we create value together? Because if you know the blueprint and the only thing is teams and people and money to go do it, and we agree with you, then let's go do it together. Let's figure out how to win together.
Well, that's a great approach, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So my understanding is then it's not only about acquiring the businesses from your side, but also you kind of acquire the founder, if that makes sense for the founder, the owner, kind of like, the owners are also working with you. Is that a good assumption?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Like we're trying to have a positive impact on the journey. Like I think this all starts from a place of just valuing all the time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears that people have put into their businesses, and saying, one of the first questions I ask anybody is, what's your ideal outcome? What are you looking for in 5 years? What are you going to go do next? Like, how long do you want to be involved? And sometimes that answer, to your point, is, look, I've poured everything into my business for the last 8 years, and I just think it scales faster and better without me. And those are fine conversations to have. Like we've got a team that's capable of building on that. But I think more often than not, you find some variation between if that's one point, and the opposite point, at the other end of the spectrum is, I want to be around every day and I want to continue to be running and operating this business. I just need capital to kind of unlock to go that way. There's every variation between that spectrum too, of, hey, I've got these 2 products that I've been in development with for the last 12 months and they're set to launch next month. I want to figure out a way to extract some value for the time and effort that I've put into that over the last 12 months. And you say, fine, like, let's figure out how to sketch out something that makes sense where you feel really, truly comfortable. And it, I think too often, this business or the aggregation business gets lumped into, oh, okay, well, we're just going to talk about an earnout or a revenue share or all of these things that are like, hey, if you hit this big target, we're going to give you extra money. Like, that's not always the only way to do things. There's no one size fits all model. Sometimes people want to roll a bit of equity, or sometimes people want to consider royalties, or people want to stay on as an advisor for a period of time, or whatever. And we try and accommodate as much as we can. Now, obviously we have a business to run and we don't say yes to everything, but at the end of the day, I think asking those questions allows us to find opportunities where we can win faster together than not doing it. And it does take a little more time to define those things, but I think it's time well spent.
Absolutely.
That's for sure.
So, I mean, the time passed so quick. Like we try to have this like 30 minutes conversations, but I mean, we got so many insights from
Always
you, and
more,
really
yeah.
impressed. Exactly. We always say like 25 minutes and then we end up in 35. So Omar, any final questions on your side?
Well, for me, it's really good. I mean, Kyle has given us so much information, I think really, I had a few questions, but really he replied to all of them.
Right. I mean, maybe a final thing is what type of companies you are more interested in terms of categories, in terms of size. So if you can give us a little bit more so the audience can, approach to you, more relevant way.
Sure. Well, first off, you can always visit foundrybrands.com. We'll be happy to. There's a form there. It comes directly to me and my team. Happy to help you think through the journey and give you a valuation on your business, or think through, how we can possibly have a positive impact on your journey. To answer your question, I think, look, I think a lot of our acquisitions are going to be in, pet, sports, outdoors, home, which I think is a big, broad, generic category, because there's, 400 subcategories under home.
Right.
And then I think we have a lot of innate knowledge on our team within the beauty space, and so I think that area is really intriguing. And look, like, those are not hard and fast to the only things that we're interested in, but I think, over time, that's probably the 80-20 rule of what we're interested in. I think we've seen a lot of brands that lied outside of those parameters, though, that had the same types of kind of foundations. So more than anything, I'd say, look, like, we're a team here that should be leveraged for trying to help you think through. M&A can be a scary thing, and exit, in a lot of cases, somebody's going to do it once, and so they don't know what to expect. And I think, look, my general advice for everybody is talk to a lot of people, because again, I come back to 99 out of 100 people that have exited a business would look back on it and say, we should have spent more time getting to know the team and talking about the future plans for the brand, and thinking through how they were going to operate it. And that's not just, oh, we're going to take you global and we're going to, optimize your PPC. No, it's about the cultural fit of, we really truly believe that we're stewards of these brands. We're not trying to recreate them and make them something that they're not. We want the owner to be proud of this business 10 years from now. And at the end of the day, if we make this business, scale beyond what it was capable of, it still should be in the same image, because it was here for a reason. And we don't want to disrupt that. We want to continue to help it grow and scale from the core that's been established. And I think, if there's one general piece of advice, it's talk to everybody. There's going to be multiple winners in this space, and you can find the right fit for you, but it goes beyond just financial terms and generic plans. Look, I could get on the phone with any seller today and go, oh, I'm going to take you more global. I'm going to, optimize. I'm going to spend more money. I'm going to do this. There's no substance to that. Like, go a layer deeper, get to know the team, get to know their expertise. For us, our two amazing equity sponsors in this venture, they have portfolio companies as well. And so we're able to leverage a lot of their sister companies for, insights and knowledge as well, and capabilities. And so, our ability to have a holistic view, and I think we've assembled the best team in the space. Obviously, I'm biased, but we have a lot of things going for us. So get to know on a deeper level who you're doing business with, and make sure that they're going to be around in 2 years to pay you all of that money, right? Like, you're going to get some money up front, and you're probably going to have some that's tied to the ongoing performance of the brand. And having equity versus debt helps us say safely that we'll be around, so that you're not one of those stories that we see too often today.
Right. Thank you. I mean, thank you, Kyle, for this great insights.
Thank you, Kyle.
We appreciate that you joined the call, and thank you.
That was
You got it.
Really.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.